Welcome, everyone, to this week's Caregiver Question of the Week. I'm Amelia, I'm an occupational therapist, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most common questions. This comes up all the time when I am talking about fall prevention, certainly when I am talking about home modifications, and when I am talking about aging in place. This is a question that comes up almost every time, like almost universally in those kinds of situations. And the reason this comes up is because it's based on, honestly, one of the most common sense sort of like misconceptions in the world. It makes so much sense why people's initial thought is to do this thing. But unfortunately, physics says no. So let me tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. Like I said, my name is Amelia. I'm an occupational therapist. I'm also the owner and founder of Higher Standards Caregiver Training, as well as the very proud co-founder of WCN University, that's Whole Care Network University. And this Caregiver Question of the Week, as always, is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for health or medical advice. It is not a substitute for a therapeutic relationship. So if you need those things, make sure that you reach out to the appropriate licensed healthcare provider, because this is for education. So what is this like super common misconception almost always comes up? Well, the answer is it has to do with flooring when people are thinking about fall prevention, aging in place, and modifying their home so that they can age in place and not fall. And so the thought, the sort of common sense thought, is that if you have nice, thick, soft carpeting, then you are going to be safer in that environment, because if you fall, or when you fall, then you'll fall on something soft and you'll be less likely to get hurt. And of course, if you fall on something soft versus something hard, you may be less likely to get hurt, although certainly the risk of injury does not go away, not by any means, okay? So what we'd rather do is just reduce that risk of falling in the first place. And the better way to do that is actually to have a nice, a hard, firm, flat, level surface to be walking on. And so most people kind of give me some serious side eye when I say that, when they're like, well, I should have nice, thick, soft carpeting, right? Like that'll be safer. And then I'm like, actually, it's better if you have a hard surface to walk on. And then I get like some real side eye, and I understand why. And so I'm going to prove it to you here a little bit today. Okay, so as you can see behind me, I have some cushions on the floor, and basically I want to kind of give you an idea of an exaggerated idea of why it is safer to be walking on a hard, firm surface than it is to be on a softer surface. And really what it comes down to is the amount of work that it takes to stabilize yourself if you are on a softer surface. So I want you to notice a couple things. Some things you won't be able to see because I'm just feeling them, and some things you will be able to see here. So for example, one of the things that I have to do, and this is it, you know what, I had my socks on because I didn't want to muck up my cushions, but I'm going to put on my red shoes so you can actually see my feet more easily, okay? All right. There we go. Okay, now you can actually see my feet. So one of the things that you will notice is how much further I have to actually pick up my feet in order to go across a softer surface. And of course, this is exaggerated on cushions, right? But the concept still applies. The concept is still the same. And when we have someone who maybe has a mobility impairment, maybe they're a little bit weaker in their legs, maybe they're not picking their feet up all the way, having a soft carpet to walk on can really be a barrier to that safe ability to walk. And it can make it a lot easier for someone to accidentally catch a toe or drag their foot and have their foot get caught on the carpet and then have a fall because of that. So that's one really easy thing that you can notice, that you can see from me walking on these cushions, is that I actually have to pick my feet up a lot further as opposed to when I'm walking on a firm surface, because I have to be able to clear all of that cushion in order to get my feet forward. So that's one thing. The other thing to understand here is it takes that I am having to do a lot more work to balance myself because the surface that I'm standing on is not as stable. So if the surface you're standing on is not as stable, then your body has to do extra work to stabilize you, which means it's harder for your body to do that work. You might not have the capacity to do that. You're going to get fatigued faster. And if you don't have the ability to do that stabilization, then you are ultimately going to fall. As opposed to being on a nice firm surface where that surface is stable. It's doing a lot of the work of stabilization for me, so my body doesn't have to do that work. I am less likely to fall in that scenario. So hopefully that kind of explains why, and again, it's one of those common sense things. It seems like it makes so much sense. Yeah, put in some nice thick soft carpet to keep yourself safe, but actually we are less likely to have a fall on a firm surface because of the support it provides and because it's easier to walk on those surfaces. Okay, so that is the answer for this week's caregiver question of the week. If you if you have more questions about falls, if you are caring for someone who is falling, or maybe you even are someone who is falling, I have created a handout. I've created a totally free handout. It's called 11 Questions to Answer If Someone is Falling. And I will drop a link in the comment section for anyone who wants to be able to download that. I'll put a link in the comment section if you want to download that, and you can sign up to go ahead and get that. Like I said, it's totally free. It's 11 questions to answer if someone is falling, and those are 11 questions that I need that are super, super, super helpful to help get down to the bottom of why someone is falling. It's really important information to be sharing with healthcare providers so that they can do a better job of intervening if someone is falling. So if you're caring for someone who is falling, maybe if you are falling, definitely check it out. Like I said, it's totally free, and it is there for you. And I will drop a link in the comment section so that you can get access to that. Okay, now we're done. Now we're done with this week's caregiver question of the week. Guys, I have a lot more fall risk and fall prevention content coming towards you because the fall prevention series is launching in May. The first event is going to be all about signs that someone might fall. Really trying to find, sometimes it's obvious when someone is in a fall risk, or sometimes people are already falling. But ideally, we want to be able to intervene before things become obvious, before there's a huge problem, right? So this one's all about signs that someone might be at risk of falling, kind of that sweet spot where we can actually step in and make change so these falls don't happen in the first place. Because that's what we want to do. We don't want people to fall in the first place. That's no good. It's no good. So, let's try to prevent that as much as possible. Okay, I will see you at next week's Caregiver Question of the Week. Make sure that you are following, subscribing, liking, wherever you watch me, so that you make sure and get notifications about the next Caregiver Question of the Week, as well as other events and resources that are coming your way. Like I said, I'm going to drop a link in the chat so that you can access that 11 questions to answer if you are caring for someone who is falling, or maybe even if you are falling yourself, it would still probably be helpful. And I will also put a link in, so if you have a caregiver question that you would like to submit anonymously, you can submit your question that way. Otherwise, if you have questions and you feel good about putting them in the comments, please make sure that you tag me so that I get notified and I see your question. All right, thanks guys. I'll see you next week. Bye.